We talk about mindset in the military. I think a lot of people really don't understand what that means. Like, oh yeah, think about it and go do it. No, like it means you go do it. Like there is no obstacle, there is no nothing. There's going to be some things that look like you can't do this because of this. There's a way around it, or you just blow yourself through that obstacle. That's what people really need to realize. If you want it, you have got to get it. That is it.
You're listening to the Kristof Lewis Podcast, a podcast where I have conversations with inspirational people. My name is Chris, but my family calls me Kristof. My goal is to have as many conversations as possible with people who have forged their own path by pursuing their dreams, making them a reality, all the while emitting positivity and sharing this knowledge with others. I seek these people out and share this information with you, proving to the world that you can do what makes you happy and do what you want for a living while being a good human being. We'll talk about careers, but we'll also cover any story that inspires. Let's do this while helping each other. Thanks for listening. I'm happy you're here. What's going on, my friends? Welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast, Create Your Career. This is conversation number 105, and I'm absolutely excited that you're here with me for yet another episode. My guest today is a former Navy SEAL, and he's the founder of Contingent Group. He is none other than the great and powerful Eddie Penney. He's a former Marine, former Navy, and we talked about all of his career transitions, and this episode is one of the most chock-full episode of information, useful information, and this episode is chock full of great information for your career transition, helping other people, education, and all of the obstacles that life throws at us. Eddie has such a great mindset. He's huge on this. If you know Eddie, if you've heard him talk before, he's massive on this, and you hear him dive really deep into a lot of his whys and his hows in today's episode. It's so good, and I'm so excited to share this with you. You can find this episode and all the other conversations and contemplations on KristofLewis.com or on your favorite podcast app. And you can find me on Instagram at Kristof Lewis. So without further ado, welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast.
Got you. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Super excited about this.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. And right off the bat, I want to say thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to speak with you. I love speaking with guys from the community, specifically NSW. Obviously, I like talking to vets all over the board, but it's really cool to connect with guys that have served where I served, and I was lucky enough to serve in that area for a few years, and to me, it just absolutely changed the trajectory of my life, and I'm honored to work with you guys doing that. So thanks again for being here.
Oh, of course, man. It goes both ways. That place was quite amazing for all of us, I think.
Yeah, like I talk about it all the time. I don't have to talk about it too much now, but like the years that I was there, like the 4 and a minute probably day past, like it just changed my life for the better. And just like being in all those kind of situations under the stress and man, that was my first command, like coming into that. Well, yeah.
Welcome.
Culture shock to the Navy. Everybody's like, you're so lucky. And I was like, dude, that is gnarly. But you did 20 years in the Navy, correct?
I did 20 total in the military, 4 with the Marine Corps, and then I switched over.
See, I missed that about you. That's really interesting. So obviously,
yeah.
And I was kind of telling you, I talk about career transitions. So you're no stranger to career transitions.
No, definitely not. I seem to like disruptions or something. I don't know.
I don't know. It's like I was telling you, I moved back down here. I just quit my first job that I got after the Navy, and I'm just like, if I get like a little bit too comfortable or something, like I'm just like, I gotta do something. I'm not pushing myself hard enough. I gotta do something else. But it's crazy.
That's not a bad problem to have, or I wouldn't even call it a problem.
Yeah,
I think it's good.
Yeah,
you want to push yourself and see what you can do and accomplish.
I agree. Yeah. So what were your reasonings from going from the Marines to the Navy?
Like before, when I was a kid, I always wanted to do the SEAL thing, and then I had a buddy that went in the Marines a year before. I was like, okay, I can do this. I'll do this. Just like went to his graduation, kind of fell in love with the obstacle course. I mean, I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
But it just says throughout the years, I'm like, this isn't what I dreamed of. And I was going to get out and just go be a cop when I got out back in Ohio, which nothing against cops and all, but I was like, there's just more. There's more. There's got to be more. And of course, the SEALs always want to do it. So I'm like, I'm doing this. Like I am setting my mind. That's my focus. That's my mindset. That's all I'm doing. And that's it.
Wow.
There is no other option.
That's awesome. That's it's interesting because a lot of times for people like even myself, there were a plethora of options. Like I didn't actually know what I wanted to do. So it's actually cool for me to hear you say that and know that
Right.
you knew exactly what you wanted to do. So apart from like the obstacle course and all that stuff being cool when you were a kid, because I was actually just talking to another guy on another recording saying like, when I was a kid, I used to run around the woods playing war, like wearing old fatigues and all that stuff. But did you know, like as a kid, like growing up or into your teenage years, did you have like any inclination of that you wanted to serve at all, or like how did you go into that?
I was that kid as well. 4 or 5 years old, running around. I mean, my mom and dad had pictures of me just like dressed up in with candy paint all over my face. I mean, I look like something from a John Wayne film, but obviously way smaller, like just old school, whatever I could find, and running around in the. I mean, I spent all my time in the woods building forts, running down hills, climbing trees, making spears, fishing, stabbing things, acting like I was on some kind of survival show. Like no clue what I was doing, but it was fun.
Dang, well, it sounds like you picked the right career, if I had to say. Like, man, so that brings me to like one of the other questions I love obviously asking is like, so did you retired, or like why did you choose to leave the service?
So I retired. I did 20 years in like a week. So that was kind of my plan from the beginning. But you get to certain commands, as we spoke of, and it's just so amazing. Like I'm like, I'll stay here until I can't walk anymore. But I got custody of 3 children, so I had to stop deploying and kind of focus on the civilian career, which I had no clue what that was whatsoever.
Wow.
I had a little bit of time, got my degree, and then just kind of started my business from that. Like while I was doing my last couple of years in the military. So
okay. So that's really interesting, because that's always one of the questions I like to ask is like, did you have a plan? Did you not have a plan? Did you kind of start this beforehand or not? Because like one of the reasons for your information that I started the podcast is because when I was in like a work center supervisor, so like a leadership position for anybody that's not in the military, I had 45 sailors, and a lot of people were getting out and didn't know what the hell they wanted to do. And I was like, that's not good. So I wanted to start talking to people. So it's cool to hear that you like had an idea for a couple of years that you wanted to do that. But it's really respectable that, I mean, you did that to raise children. Like that is very commendable and respectable. And I have a 7-month-old downstairs right now, and that shit is not easy, man. So like, I can't imagine.
When I got mine, my son was 8 months old. So I was going from deployment after deployment after deployment to taking over diaper duty. And then I've got, like 2 daughters, one was 5, one was 10. It was just like mind blown. I'm like, I'm not prepared for this.
Yeah, it's a different kind of battlefield.
All you want, but man, these kids, they'll take you down.
That's so cool that you're able to do that. So, and I know you're kind of part of a couple different things, but can you kind of like talk us through like the evolution into what you're doing now? Like actually talk us through that transition of like not only creating your business and some of the things you're part of, but like also the mindset that comes with that. Because you kind of touched on like, it's crazy going from like deployment to deployment, like hundreds of like all that stuff to raising kids. Now I'm a civilian.
Yeah. The whole switch really didn't happen until I was pretty much had to choose, like you can stay in, but you lose custody of your kids, and I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So when I got them, I mean, there was a few months of like staring into space, like what am I supposed to do with my life? I was just, it was a bad time. So a great time, but bad time, because I just feel like I didn't have control of the situation, which most of us like to have control of where we're going, what's our next thing, our next move. So, I got a training job after I kind of learned how to be a father, somewhat, I should say. And it was the command treated me really well, and I got put into a training position where I had time to get my degree. I had time to take care of my kids. I was able to drive them to school, pick them up from school, which I found out, it really takes out a lot of time, especially when there was 2 at the time, but one's got daycare. It's just like, how do you do all this as a single parent?
Yeah.
But during that time, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Like I need, like I'm, a couple of years I'm retiring, and the safety blanket is kind of off of like, all your medical's taken care of. You got a paycheck the 1st and the 15th.
Yeah.
You have all these benefits that a lot of people don't realize until it's taken. Well, I wouldn't say taken away, but not given to you anymore because you're no longer part of the machine. So I started my degree in security management because I really love the job that I did as being a SEAL. Yeah. So I was like, what can I do? And I started to, I remember doing like PI work for like another company, just like I need to do something. And that was like the only thing that I knew, because I had kids. I had to be here
Yeah.
for them. So I started doing that, and I'm like, this is just so lame. I just can't sit around and watch people. So I was like, I'm starting my own business, and actually that came after a friend of mine asked if I could contract for executive protection for a family. I was like, of course I will. So went over to Europe for pretty much a whole summer and just worked for him. Like, man, this isn't too bad. I can see room for improvements, kind of starting my own little business. So started my company, Contingent Group, and it's kind of morphed from there. So, and I did not have a plan. Like, okay, I'll do this. I mean, I wrote down things like, okay, here's my makeshift business plan or whatever. But a lot of it came from failure, and from those failures, though, came success. So it wasn't like, I mean, I failed multiple times. I had to go get loan after loan after loan.
Wow.
Like, 'cause I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I need to pay for this and this and that and this. I just didn't understand it. And then now the tax aspect, and I mean, now I'm getting a hang of it. I wouldn't say I'm 100% at all. But it was an eye opener, and I really enjoyed it, and it was really good. And then, finally figured out how to do it. Okay. So this is what a business budget is, and overhead and all that stuff, and training for your guys and, equipment. So I learned a lot. It was good. And right now it's great. So we're definitely bigger. We're really reaching out to multiple different countries, which I love, and we're keeping people safe. And that's like the biggest thing for me is that, and getting friends and other people jobs, or like contracting jobs at least.
That is awesome.
It's going well.
Yeah, that's badass. I think that's like the life of an entrepreneur. Like that is it. Yeah. Like the failures and like I've looked into all the tax stuff for LLCs because my wife and I are starting some stuff too, and it's just like, it's bonkers. It's like, it seems so foreign and so weird, and you don't know how to do it. And I think you just like, what I'm getting from this and for the listeners is like, just to do it, just start doing things, get into motion, and then you'll learn as you go. And like, obviously with like taxes and stuff, you have to learn that as you go,
right, Yeah, totally.
But like one of the IRS bill, like, oh shit, yeah, like let's not let that slip. I was just dealing with taxes from 2016 personally, like before this, so I totally get it. Like it comes out of the woodwork, man. It's nuts, but I think like what's really cool about all the things you just described is like you started from opportunity. You had the opportunity to go overseas, and you took advantage of it, and you like didn't settle for the PI work, right? So like
that was I don't even know what that was. That was like medication maybe for me at the time, like some kind of transition out of deploying to who knows what.
yeah. Like I can't imagine, like I was only there for 4 years, and then like, okay, now I'm this guy. I've been doing this for like a long time, and now I'm doing PI work. Like I would lose my mind in this like imaginary position I'm thinking right now, So like,
it was rough. But you kind of like went to it. You said it before. It's like that mindset, and we talk about mindset in the military, but I think a lot of people really don't understand what that means. Like, oh yeah, think about it and go do it. No, like it means you go do it. Like there is no obstacle, there is no nothing, and there's going to be some things that look like you can't do this because of this. There's a way around it, or you just blow yourself through that obstacle and make yourself like. That's what people really need to realize. If you want it, you have got to get it. That is it. Obviously, I'm not saying I want to jump to the moon. Well, figure out how do I do that? I'll work out my leg. Like that's how I'm saying. I mean, realistic things, because if this guy and this girl can do it, that have done it decades before us, or the people right now that we look up to, mentors, there's no difference.
Yeah,
there is no difference. I mean, gosh, it's a wealth of knowledge out there on what to do, what not to do, and then when you do what you're not supposed to do, you learn from it, so you get stronger. So it's just that mindset. I'm so big on that. I don't know if you heard other podcasts I've done, but that is one of my biggest things. It's just that mind. You just can't. That's it. That is it. It doesn't matter. You find a way, and that is it. It doesn't matter your circumstances. One step at a time. After you got the big bird's eye view picture, and then just move forward. Yeah,
man, I totally agree, and I have heard that before, and I will say that my short time at the command, my commo, one of the best things I learned from him is that, because some of the requests we got seemed impossible, like, you guys need to do this shit, and we're like, that shit doesn't exist, man. Like, but what I learned is, like, like you said, there's a way around it, right? And he always said, like, we haven't put enough time or money into it yet, but it is possible. Nothing's impossible. And like, that's what that place was for. But that mentality, that mindset, like you're saying, is applicable to everything. Like going out there and like doing your research, and then going out there and like developing whatever you want in your own life, like that like take that and run to the bank and just like, I love, like, this is the Kristof Lewis podcast, Create Your Career. Eddie right here has created his career. Like, to me, that's the ultimate badass of things to do.
And I'm not done. I'm not even close to done.
I love that, though. Like, we were talking about, like, getting comfortable. Like, so you're doing Contingent Group, obviously. Like, what's next?
Then we got another one that I started with a couple buddies is Falcon.
Yep.
And that's going to be like for business executives on defense for them when they can't carry, weapons open, like concealed or whatever, but certain things to protect, like teachers, stuff like that. So that's been a pain in the rear end, but still it's fun. And then working on a book as well. So that's going on. And then a couple other little side things here and there. You know what? I got to look at my calendar, else I don't know what's going on.
That's crazy.
I forget to eat dinner sometimes, so
I'm the same way.
That's not true all the time.
Yeah, you don't see it, but I have these two massive whiteboards behind you. Then I have like my scheduler that I have to check multiple times a day because it's just like it's absolutely insane. But one of the things you said you talk about mindset a lot, and I actually wrote a note here. I was just checking over some of like more recent stuff that you had talked about, but I didn't mark down anything really specifically. But what's easy to notice is that like you are just all about positivity and like helping people, and I'm massive on helping people. Because like one of my stipulations for any guest, and you're 105th guest, and one of my stipulations for any guest is not just people that are going out there and creating their career, transitioning, and inspiring others, but that they are actually doing that last step. They're inspiring others, they're helping people, and I really want to see that. Like it doesn't just stop with us. And obviously like when you're in the military or at a corporation, if you're not in the military and you're listening to this, but especially like from my experience, team like helping each other is like the mission's going to fail if you don't help with each other. So like carrying that in the civilian world has helped me substantially, and I love that you're about that. Yeah. And is that, you think where it evolved from, is from the teams or from something else? Or?
Oh, of course. I kind of took the mantra of like the teamwork, and that's why like Contingent Group. I didn't want I have a hard time, if I say it's my company, I get mad at myself because I'm like, it's our company, because I'm not doing it alone. There's a lot of guys that are work together and making things happen. I mean, if I get pulled out, I think my guys could still keep going. And if they get pulled out, we can still keep the train running. But I do keep that going. I love the teamwork. I try to do things. And of course, like it's been we're kind of building maybe a little bit too fast at times.
Interesting.
So I haven't had really time to set up that regimen of like, all right, guys, this is what I want this to look like. We need to do this training. We get it in, but it's kind of, in my eyes, kind of sloppy right now. It just needs to be more regimented. But when you're dealing with, you don't know if you're going to South America next week or if you're going to Europe in 2 months. It's kind of hard to do that. You have these schedules and plans, and then all of a sudden it gets taken away by a specific trip that's definitely needed. So, I love the teamwork concept. I love it. And it makes me feel good. We have group text. There's very little one-on-ones. It's all the groups, so everyone's informed. As you know, communications is huge.
Yes.
It is so huge. It is so huge. If you don't have that communication piece, you're gonna falter, and it's and there's really no excuse with all the technology. I mean, you can text on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, phones, message, or just talk in person. So there's just so many. There's no excuse for it, but still, I find that it still happens. Like, how did this get missed? And it's just like, hey, like communicate. Even if you think it's so small, even if it is small and you don't think it matters, it might to someone else.
Yeah. The very last thing, all of it's great, but that last point is very important. You have no idea like what actually could be important to somebody else. You want to transmit everything, and especially like in running a company, I can't imagine, especially that kind of company. It's really important. And speaking as a former comms guy, like I know how important that is. Like I was always making sure like my shit was planned, and like one of the things you said, like shit changes, right? Like you go here to this one country one day, this other country the other day. And one of the things I always like kind of like picking out certain topics that come up conversation after conversation. And the one that just divulged itself to me is like, you can have all the preparation you want. So in your position, like you can know you're going to South America or Europe or whatever, you can have the best plans, and then shit changes. Like, so are you able to pull an audible? Which I think is a lot of like your background and some of the background I got to step in for a few years is like, you can plan the best mission ever. You can know A to Z, you briefed higher headquarters, like you're like, all right, let's execute it. You go out there, nothing fucking happens the same like you thought it was going to happen. Right. So I think having like that background, is probably like exactly what you need to do for what you're doing. Like it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
But
perfect.
you don't realize until you're like, wait a second, we've done this all the time. Nothing ever went smooth or the way it's supposed to go. It just didn't. So, but you just like adapt and you overcome it. You know, we always hear like in the military, improvise, adapt, overcome. But you know what? It's true.
Yeah.
You get served this. All right, what do we have? And that kind of goes back to that positivity. I mean, gosh, as you know, we've been in some crazy situations. You have a choice to like, I'm going to get down on myself and nothing gets done, and you're still stuck there, throwing a little temper tantrum, or you can like, hey, all right, this is what we have. How do we make this happen? And let's go do it, and just have a positive vibes. And don't get me wrong. There's times where I'm like, oh my gosh, are you serious? But you know, generally, even if you asked the guys I work with, I mean, I'm pretty darn positive, and it goes back to like, you know, exercising and all that stuff that we still like all our guys have to do, and just like keep that positivity going. So but yeah, that's huge. Very huge.
Well, the exercise definitely helps, because I'll notice, and everybody listening for the most part knows that I had an injury while I was still in the service. 6 months ago, it resurfaced and got worse, and I'm actually just now starting to work out for the first time in 6 months. And let me tell you, like, speaking to mindset, like, coming from a guy that, you know, I had to keep up with you guys, like, that's not easy, you know, like throwing on the comms ruck and all that stuff was really, really difficult. So I was in that kind of like, you know, ruck and shape. And then now I'm in no shape and my body's atrophying. And what I've noticed is that at the beginning, my mind started to slip away. My mindset you speak of so highly of, that I can agree with you more, started slipping. And I was like, I got to do something serious here. So that's like when I couldn't work out anymore. So I started reading a book a week, and I was just like knocking out book after book after book. And I substituted my time. And that's what I want to encourage other people. But I just can't wait to get back into that as well, because it's so important. Like, taking care of the body takes care of the mind, and vice versa. And that's always been, so I love hearing you say that.
You just nailed it. You're like, you realized, and then you realize in saying, whatever, and make an excuse, in 6 months I'll do something. You said, I'm going to do this because we got to train this guy up here as well. And I mean, that's something I try to pick up or do the audio books when I'm driving here and there, or the gym sometimes, but I definitely could do better. I have my little stench, you know, like, all right, I'm like on books, like 2 or 3 books a week. It's like, it's on. Then like 2 or 3 weeks go by, I'm like, Eddie, you need to download another book.
Well, that's why, like, you're talking about like schedules and regiments. I think you said that like earlier. So that's obviously the military it was so regimented, scheduled. And that was one of the biggest issues I had when I got out, was that, okay, now, I mean, I have an employer, but I'm holding myself to that. And like when I get home, like all of my personal development, which I'm a huge advocate of, like self-education, continued education for myself, that's all up to me. Like nobody's going to hold me to that. And I struggled with that at first. And then now I found myself in a position where now I'm good. Like now I'm doing that. And then now that the physical evolutions are coming back into my life, like I didn't take it for granted before, but now I definitely don't take it for granted, and I'm so ready to be able to like pump that back into my life and then have the both right now. It's going to be so exciting. And I wanted to go into one of the other things I saw you say was you must believe in yourself and the abilities that you have. And people are probably like so sick and tired of me saying this, because I say it on every episode on my single podcast. And I say like, well, yeah. And like, I don't mind saying it, I guess. So no, I don't apologize for that. But like, we sell ourselves short all the time. I saw it in myself. I mean, is that something that you've experienced as well, and you had to like kind of wake yourself back up from it?
I think probably the Marine Corps switched to the Navy. I was like, this isn't what I'm not supposed to be doing this.
Yeah.
Like I just felt like I was called higher. Now, I'm not saying that the Navy or whatever is better than, I'm not saying that.
Sure.
It wasn't my place. It wasn't my passion.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense.
My passion it just wasn't there. It doesn't mean I wasn't doing my job, or, you know, I didn't give it 110%. It just wasn't my passion. And actually I see that a lot. I'll hear people like, I hate my job. I hate my job. You know, like, it pays the bills, and, it puts that safety net that we can't see around us.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's like, okay, I get that. But like, what are you doing now to better yourself, to do your dream job? Like, if you want to start a business, while you're working this other job, why aren't you doing things as a hobby to get that stuff ready to go? And then when it's time to make that switch, you can make that switch. A lot of people think it's like a light switch. All right, I'm off of this job, I'm on over here. And it's a lot of times it's not that. A lot of, as you know, stuff in the background for a year or two get stuff set up so you can make a switch to do what you like to do, whatever your passion is and your purpose for whatever the work is.
Yeah.
Because I mean, for me, this is not work. Like the company I work, Contingent Group, it's not work. I mean, it is at times, but I love it. Personally, it's so much fun. It changes all the time. We're like, holy crap, I can do this. This is kind of fun. And like, I'm hanging out with the guys that I like, that I just love to death. You know, we're good friends. We just make stuff happen. And that's what it's all about, is making stuff happen and keep people safe. And we are all about that. So
I absolutely.
Yeah, people kind of settle. They settle.
Yeah.
And you know, that might be, I don't know if that's like a intangible thing. Like, I guess let's go back to the mindset is like, hey, if you want this, if you want to build a car or whatever, start in your garage. Let's go. You can do your other job or whatever. It doesn't matter. So yeah, you shouldn't stop. You shouldn't settle. You need to go what your passion is. That's for sure.
I'm all about it, man. Like by the time this comes out, it'll be like 160 or 70 total podcast episodes, I think. And like, I just, you know, I still have a day job. I have an employer. I work for somebody currently, but I come home and I do this every single day, 7 days a week since March of 2018, like 5 months before I got out of the service. And, you know, I love it. And I just highly encourage people to do that, because one of the other reasons, one of the other pillars that I say this podcast stands on is like we've nailed a couple of them, but one of the things I noticed when I was in that supervisor position is that people were just complaining, and I was like, listen, like I understand you're in a contract now, but you're in a contract. Contracts end, and you have a choice to leave the service when you do that, and then hopefully you have you've prepared and you have a plan for that. But like the bottom line, the takeaway from that is that you have a choice. You know, you don't have to stay there, and especially like as a civilian, like I just quit that job. Like people are like, you're crazy for quitting that job. Like it's a good job, blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, you're on the outside. You don't see what's going on in my head. You don't see the thoughts, the crazy thoughts that are going on in my head. You know, step into my head for 5 minutes and step back out and tell me I'm not crazy. Like, you know,
that's a circus in there.
Some wild shit. Yeah, exactly. So like, you don't ever know what's going on in somebody's head. That's a completely separate point. But what I'm saying is like, I totally understand like what you're saying is, go out there and like seize the opportunity. Like go out there, do what you want, and do something you love. And the most quoted book I've ever quoted, probably on every single podcast, is Good to Great by Jim Collins. And like, you get good is good, but good is not great. And you get stuck in good, and people, that's that comfortability zone of just stagnation. And that just, it kills me. But what kills me more is that people complain when they're in there. Like if you're going to complain for like 2 seconds and then do something about it, but you can't just sit there and not do anything about it, you know?
Yeah, you have to act. You have to implement.
Yeah,
and a lot of times, plans, whatever. I mean, that's the part that you just got to start moving.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, then everyone's like, oh, what do I do here? I'm like, hey, just worry about step one. Like, just take it easy, relax. Like, they start worrying and stressing, and it's like, come on. Chill out.
Yeah, the moving part's been really helpful for me too. Yeah, exactly. Like you'll be okay. It's not going to be like that bad, and it's actually not as risky as you think it is. And it's again like I think from the outside it seems really risky, but again like if you step into my head, it seems risky. But I've done so much homework on the moves that I'm making. Like if you got in my head, you'd know that there's zero risk. Like obviously, maybe not zero, but like it's pretty damn close to zero. I've done so much homework. And it's going to be okay, pending some world disaster, you know. So
it's like that outside in. It's almost, you can almost think of like this analogy here. It's like when you're a kid going to school, first day of school, you're before you even walk in, you're like, am I going to get bullied? Are the kids going to like me? Am I wearing the coolest shirt? Am I okay? And then by like day 2 or gosh, by hour 2, everything's fine. It's perfect. You're like, sweet, lunchtime or whatever. Like, I remember you from last year. Like, I can remember that as a kid, like so scared to go into school. Like, I want to make friends. I don't want to be like get bullied or anything like that. But you know, when it comes down to it, you're not. You know, it's okay.
It's so crazy. It's like it's just some people don't like change. Some people embrace change and feed off of change. And I think that kind of goes back with what we were saying about having to pull audibles. And if you know, like I love that shit. Like I love planning. Like I said, I don't like leaving the shit I don't like leaving shit in the dark, not being prepared or anything. But at the same time, like, all right, like let's try this on for size. Like it's going to change. Let's try it out. It's kind of scary for sure. Like you said, am I going to get bullied by life, or am I going to get fired? Is people that I'm working with not going to like me? Is the business that I'm starting not going to work? Do guys, my friends or are they not going to respect me as their leader? Are they, all these things that come with it? But you started it. You took that opportunity that you described, in Europe. You started rolling with it because you just mentioned start moving, and you started moving then, and you just keep on rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. And here you are talking to me, and I'm like, you can't even remember all the shit you're doing now because you're doing so many things.
We're sitting here talking. I'm like, whoa.
That's really cool to me, because to leave that safety net behind, that like specifically for the military or really just any job, can be scary. But I think, again, like it bears saying once again, like, you don't have to have this break from black to white. You Eddie here started a few 2-3 years ahead or out, and you can do the same thing too. And there's nothing wrong with that, whether you're in the military or whether you want to get into the military. Because I have a lot of young guys and girls ask me, like, which service should I get into? Where should I do when I'm in the service? And I'm like, well, and we go into it, but I'm just saying, like, you can work your job and do all your research, all your due diligence, and then get into it, and don't just have to go straight into it. And that's what I love about, the plethora of examples that we've talked about so far.
Right. One thing I did find myself is I would like listen to people that kind of took the same route as I did. And I'd be like, okay, they did this, they did this, they did this. And then after, I wouldn't say too long, maybe a year of that, I was like, well, they did this, so I should probably do this. They had this, so I should probably have this.
That's smart.
Is you got to realize your company is your company. Like, it's different. It's different, just like our personalities are different. I don't need to try to be like this guy because I'm me. So it's just like with business. Like, my business does this. It looks different. It feels different because it is different. It's different than my competitors or whoever else. So everyone's like, oh, I want to try to like be like this company, or I want to be like this person over here. It's not going to work. You're fooling yourself, and it's going to end up coming crashing down. And you be yourself, make your own company, or do your own thing, because you are specific.
Yeah.
So absolutely. A lot of people kind of miss that, and I was guilty of that for a little bit, and then I finally was like, wait a second, this is not me.
Yeah. Well, it can be hard to get sucked into that. It can be hard to get sucked into
Absolutely.
that, but
it
can be. I think it takes a lot more work sometimes until you get into the motion, until you get into the rhythm of like actually being your authentic self. It can be difficult, and then once you like snap into that, you're like, what the fuck was I doing? Like, I should have been this. I should have been myself all the time. And before we get out of here, one of the other notes you said that I really like is that you kind of like essentially shadowed other people, right? Like what they were doing, like. Many people have lived before us and have most likely done what we've already done. Like, it bears saying, like, let's kind of follow what they do instead of make the same mistakes that they did. So I love that you said that, man. Absolutely. And I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for being here with me today and sharing all this. If people want to learn more about you, find you, how can they get a hold of you?
Obviously, www.contingentgroup.com. Then we have, for Instagram, we got @Contingent Group. And then we have our Facebook page. And then kind of share a lot of stuff on the personal side. So that's Eddie.Penney on Instagram. So that'll probably be the main ways to find us right there.
All right, Eddie, like I said, thank you so much for being here. It was really fun speaking with you, and I think we hit like an insane amount of good topics that would definitely help people. It helped me. Can't wait to walk away from this. And like I always say, I talk to my wife and we have these conversations about the guests, and it's really fun, actually. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your night.
You too. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, see ya.